Hello my wonderful people, Lisa the Russians here as always. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to another day here in the capital of Russia, Moscow. Today I'm wearing my cozy Princess Gopnik outfit. It's because today I'm filming here inside. It's too cold today in Moscow and I decided to make a reaction video. This is what I usually don't do on my channel, but I wanted to make a reaction on a reel that I saw recently, and this reel I think it's very funny because it shows why Russian people the way they are and how we were raised. So it's going to ruin some stereotypes about Russians, or an opposite, probably it will confirm some stereotypes, right? So let's go, guys. First of all, I wanted to show you this video from the start to beginning, so you will see the whole thing and you can make your opinion yourself first. Okay, so I think it's very funny, and what's interesting is when I sent this video to one of my American friends, he actually didn't believe that it was so tough, that our Russian life is so tough, right? So maybe you watching this from the capitalist countries, probably your childhood and your life was not that tough, but believe me, in my childhood we experienced some crazy things. This video shows time around 90s. I was a child in 90s and beginning of 2000s, probably up to 2007, 2008. Now I want to actually break down each picture that's shown in this video. So it starts with, why are Slavic girls so cold-hearted? And you know, Russian girls are full of love, but we can be really tough. I can tell it by like thinking about myself, like one day I'm a princess and the second day I am a real gopnik who want to say to like for everything, you know? Let's look at the picture of a young child in a typical Russian surroundings, somewhere in a wild winter, and I can tell you this is pretty accurate picture. A majority of Russian kids in 90s were look like this, and I had exactly the same hat in my childhood, and I remember walking outside in winter wearing this, and this hat had this kind of like, how you call it, like what you tie over here, and this fluff, it's just like a fluffy hat, and this fluffy thing got inside your mouth and it's kind of very, very annoying. This hat is ultimately winter warm hat, like it's never cold to wear this one. You can wear it even in deep Siberia and you're going to be warm. Parents would usually put a scarf around your face, so when you're going outside only your eyes can see something. Now we're experiencing a warm climate everywhere, but in my childhood it was cold, so enduring 5 months of winter, you will become tough person. Okay, another picture shows a typical Russian teacher and says like her elementary teacher. It may look a bit scary, but I can tell you it's again, it's pretty accurate, because in my typical Russian school, this is what we had as a like our classroom teacher, and she didn't like me. Like I was a bad student in the middle school, like in the high school, you know. When I was a child, I got very good grades, but then something happened to me and I was like a typical bad teenager in my typical Russian school. It was pretty bad. So usually they would shout on us, like, yeah, it's normal in Russian schools, maybe now it's not normal, but it used to be normal, right? So it's kind of very accurate representation on this picture, I can tell you that. So having a very tough teacher in your school probably is going to add another point to your toughness as a Russian. Okay, here they showed us her school desk, like a typical Russian school desk. It looks here pretty rough, but I can tell you that it's a model of tables from the Soviet time. It's not how it was in our typical Russian school. They already in 90s, they already changed this desks to normal tables and chairs, like a more modern style. But these tables were everywhere around Soviet typical schools. This picture shows the typical old computer, and I can tell you, like, it's also pretty accurate, but I didn't have this kind of old computer. Probably in your countries, I don't know where you're from, but maybe you got your computers in 90s, but in Russia I think it was really delayed. And I remember how I was begging my mom to buy a first ever computer, because most of the people, they couldn't afford it, so we didn't have it. And only later on, I don't know what year it was, I already had my first computer when they looked more modern than this one. And at the moment when we bought it, it's already had like a flat screen, and a system block was like a separate standing, you know. This picture shows every picture with relatives. I think it's 100% accurate as well. Every Russian family has typical photo album from the 90s, or not from the 90s, from the years when we didn't have any smartphone, and our pictures would look like this. Picture like all Russian families standing with a background of big cover, and yeah, it was every time. Because why is this? Is because in a family where there was no smartphones, right? We had only photography, film cameras, right? And it was a bit expensive to buy a film every time and then print pictures every time. So Russian people were, how to say, saving, like a frugal, saving, don't want to buy a lot of films. So every shot on this photo film, it was really precious. So we usually spend these frames, these shots, for really important events, like take a group pictures of the whole family during like a New Year or a birthday, kind of like this. So this is why, the reason why every shots look like this, just not because they wanted to spend the precious film and they wanted to capture some family events, or like the kids or another like babushka's family, things like that. This is picture showing her snacks, and this is also pretty accurate. It probably looks very like poor in Russian, and this is a stand showing a currency exchange. Here you can see this green banner, it says Обмен валюты, and Обмен валюты in Russian is a currency exchange shop. I don't know how you call it, the shop, the place where you can change dollars to rubles. And guys, this picture is like brings a lot of memories to me, because the currency exchange rate here is 27 rubles, 70 kopeek. It was years ago, ages, because right now currency exchange rate is almost like 100, around 100 now, is like 90s again. So imagine it's like 3 times over difference. 3 times the currency exchange rate changes during all of these years, and it is insane, guys. So it is pretty accurate because in 2000s it's pretty normal for babushkas to sit on the streets and sell semichki, the sunflower seeds, or usually they would sell also fried peanuts, as you call it, right? Peanuts. So it was really, really delicious. And I remember it would cost probably like few rubles, like 5 rubles or something. Like they would usually have a big package of the sunflower seeds, and they would usually use Gazeta, the newspaper, and they would use a glass cup. So they would measure it with cup and put to this kind of pockets of Gazeta. Yeah, and we didn't have much than this. Like these babushkas, they were everywhere, I think in every city, so it was pretty normal. When you are a child and you don't have much pocket money, her snacks are legit semichki and peanuts that you go on the streets, and what we can buy back then, it was probably like 1 ruble chewing gum or semichki or something like this. Next picture shows another Russian snack again, and you would ask me, what is this? It is a Russian bread, and I explain you this in one of my like previous old videos, because this is special type of bread. In Vladivostok we call it podolsky. In other regions of Russia they may call it in different way, but it's kind of a hard bread, but it's very popular, it's very common. We had it everywhere in the 90s. It's kind of one of the type of the staple Russian bread where you can buy it everywhere, and it's also delicious. I can really relate to this picture because usually what we would do in our childhood, as the parents would give us money to go to the shop to buy a fresh bread, because this bread is very, very delicious when it's freshly baked, and when the bread car just comes to the shop and smells like bread everywhere. So this is the most delicious bread that you can get. So if you're really hungry and you go to buy this very delicious podolsky bread and you go home, you know, you are a happy child, and it can be really smell very delicious and look very tasty. So when you go home bringing this bread, you kind of start to bite it, maybe because you're hungry and maybe because you just want to try the fresh bread. Next picture shows boutique she went to, and it shows typical markets with 2 guys. It's probably a picture from 90s, yes, and before the era of shopping malls and online shops, this is the way we used to buy clothes. This is real. I don't know how about Moscow area and other cities, but in Vladivostok we had Chinese market, because our city located very close to China, so it's very obvious that the Chinese would come to us and build the big markets with Chinese clothes. When the next season comes, it's kind of normal to go to the market with your parents to buy some new clothes. As before the era of big capitalist shopping malls, it was really, really normal. Her smartphone, it shows a very old style Tamagotchi toy, and I can relate to this also a lot, because I don't know in what time in your country you started to have first smartphones or phones, but in Russia I guess it's also been a little bit delayed. So it was a big happiness for tough Russian kids to get something electronic, even as like a small simple game, and Tamagotchi was one of them. It was a freaking cool to have your own pet as a Tamagotchi. I remember my first memory of having a Tamagotchi and have your electronical little child. It was a little chicken, an egg, and it was like a miracle. Like some electronic device can actually run around, like you can feed them, you can like they can die, they can grow, something like this. This is like mind-blowing. Okay, this is picture from her school bathroom. Also, I can say that it is pretty legit, but in our school, in our typical Russian school, we didn't have this like a squat toilet. We had a normal toilet, but what you can see here is that there is no any like separation between each toilet, right? So it's crazy, like you can see each other, like what? Probably it's kind of one of the wild schools over there, but in our Russian school, we still had this separatings between normal toilets, but there was no door. There was no door. So you can go inside the toilet and you can like see everyone. I don't know why is this, but I guess in our childhood we see it is as normal because we didn't know how it can be for real. I believe this was made for the reason that nobody can actually close the door and do something like smoking or I don't know, hiding over there, because for the highest grade it was even normal to go to the toilet and smoke there. It was really bad. You would be like immediately taken to the director of the school for this. So yeah, I don't know how was it in your schools, and yeah, I don't know how it is in modern Russian schools, but in old typical Russian schools the bathrooms would look like this. This picture shows her summer vacation and it shows a typical Russian village house. I would say that this picture is pretty cozy. There's nothing like very bad about it. I would say typical village babushka's house would look something like this. It has a big beautiful Russian stove with some kettles on it. It would have a bed with a rug, some pictures on the wall, nice carpets. Well, I think it's cute, and yeah, this pictures is 100% legit, because usually if you were a child living in a town, most probably you would have a babushka with a garden village house, and for the period of summer vacation they would send you to live with babushka, so your parents could stay alone by themselves, do something, and you can have a rest in the nature, like doing some village stuff, having fun with your village friend and something like this. But in my case, we didn't have a big village house. We had a dacha. Our village house looked much more simple like this. It was not a place where you can live like in a village. It was just more like a simple small dacha house. I think it's pretty accurate representation about our childhood and the way we were raised, but I can tell you that modern Russia has changed a lot, and now we have modern houses, modern village houses, like modern schools and so on. Living in this tough childhood really affects who we are today, but again, the progress in Russia is huge. So with an internet and effect of Western culture, we kind of who we are as Russians, because we were raised in this situation, but we also following a lot of Western culture from the time when we started to use internet. So what do you think, guys, about this? I'm really interested to hear your opinion, and you can write me your message down below in the comments, and also you can push likes and subscribes to my channel to not miss my future vlogs from Russia. And that was me, Lisa the Russian. So thank you so much, guys, for staying with me until the very end, and I will see you very soon in my next one. Bye bye!